You're listening to Greater Good Radio Hawaii. Today's guests are Jeff KLECK and Wayne MCVICKER, co-founders of Neoforma and Attainia Inc. So Wayne, who could you say has been a great mentor in your life or mentors in your life?
Well, we had a great mentor at Neoforma. It was our first investor. He was our attorney that we ended up going to. And his name's Jack. He is just a very energetic, great sounding board, great confidence builder, probably more than anything. He would just, once he kind of accepted us into his fold, he would just give us this feeling like we could do anything, and give us ideas and really help us round out what our formula was and set us up with other investors and such. So he was critical in the early days.
What about for yourself?
Yeah, there's even another investor that we had named Dennis, who I think was just as important, who just had a brilliant mind, was already a successful entrepreneur. I mean, wildly successful, very well known. And he was just, you would not differentiate him from any other person on the street. Very, very, big-hearted individual, and he was happy about spending time with two guys who had never built anything, who had no reputation. And he gave us a lot of time, a lot of direction, and was incredibly patient. When you look back at all the things we didn't know, that he could have just as easily have gotten frustrated and walked away. He just spent so much patient time with us. I think he was very important and is very important to us still. Again, these folks we've carried along from our first company, and things worked out so well, and they, that we still have them in our second company.
You talked about your mentors that had helped you throughout your success, and they gave you very valuable advice. And when Evan and I were building our first company as well, we had mentors that gave us very valuable advice that actually was the premise of helping us start Greater Good Inc. And you started Starting Something, the book, to share with other entrepreneurs what are some valuable lessons you've learned along the way. Could you also share about some of the other community involvement you're doing and why you feel it's important to be doing this while you're also involved in building your companies as well?
Well, beyond writing the book, which was a very nonprofit venture for me, I've evolved into talking at business schools rather often, either via phone or in person, and just networking to the entire community of primarily young business students, young entrepreneurs who see something in what I've written down here that's different from what they've seen elsewhere. So I try to spend as much time as I can sharing as much as I can about the experiences we had, so that they can both benefit from the wonderful adventures we've had and know that they can do it. I try to be as open and honest about the experience, so that those that might think, well, you have to be some super brilliant PhD, like this guy to be an entrepreneur, and really all it takes is passion, creativity, and a strong drive to do something right for the world. And so that's my primary contribution to
so you're looking more at being a mentor in various ways, whether through the book or through schools or small groups and things like that.
Yes.
Could you share with us a little bit more about your community involvement, Jeff?
Sure. Well, along the same lines, I'm on a couple of boards at Stanford University. One is for the School of Engineering. Another is for the interdisciplinary biosciences group there at Stanford, which is called BioX. And likewise, I help the faculty and help the students, direct them from an entrepreneur's perspective, and an engineer and someone who's spent a lot of time in the biosciences, helping those folks understand what they can do with what they're developing, and perhaps building new entrepreneurs out of it as well. So I spend a lot of time with them. Also informally, like Wayne, as a successful entrepreneur in the Silicon Valley, you're called upon by other would-be entrepreneurs for advice and direction. And there's kind of an unwritten rule. If others have helped you get to the point you are, and a lot of folks did. I mean, we had a lot of successful entrepreneurs give us advice and give us direction. Then how are you going to be true to that legacy? So we certainly do it, and I do it all the time by giving direction to young entrepreneurs.
Sometimes entrepreneurs feel like they're so engulfed in their business, trying to make that successful, that they go, I don't have time to give back to the community. What's your perspective on that, and why do you still make the time?
Those entrepreneurs to some degree are right. There's a lot of demands on them, but the reality is, giving back to that community, some people may call it networking, and if you say, well, do you network? Every entrepreneur will say, oh, that's important. I need to network. So sometimes an entrepreneur is is giving back to their community just by communicating their experiences with other would-be entrepreneurs. And most of them do that. Very few entrepreneurs work effectively in a vacuum. So I'd say most of them do have some kind of connection back to their community. What they then do after they're successful, are they a philanthropist? Do they spend time with academic organizations to help them? There are a lot of other things to do on top of it, and I think that comes with time and maybe a little more breathing room after they get that first success under their belt.
Thanks for joining us today on Greater Good Radio. For more information or a transcript of today's show, please visit us online at greatergoodradio.com. This is your host Evan Leong and Carrie Leong saying please join us next time for another episode of Greater Good Radio Hawaii.